The new darling in Wall Street by a mile these days is high-flying Nvidia, and more people are now heralding CEO Jensen Huang as an amazing leader, with some even going so far as to say Jensen is a bigger visionary than Elon. There's no doubt Nvidia has taken the limelight away from Tesla these past few months, but would you agree that Nvidia is a better company, or that Huang is a better leader than Musk? Today, we're going to watch a number of videos to explore this more, and we've got Jeff Lutz with us, and he's been following both companies very closely. Jeff, you've been hearing these more and more people are just loving Jensen Huang, and then they're harping on Elon. Tell me more what you're thinking, and we'll watch some of these videos.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's watch this one. Of course, our favorite, Jim Cramer at CNBC. Let's listen to him.
Talking to a couple people in the industry whom I idolized last night, and GOAT kept coming up.
Referring to Jensen Huang.
Greatest of all time. And there's some people who are very cheery about knowing him, because we know that he's ethereal, we know that he's not a boss, and we know that he carries himself like a gentleman. And it's ethereal.
Do you think he's a bigger visionary than Elon Musk?
Yes.
You didn't hesitate?
Yes. And I tell you why. Because I think in the end, I do believe that that's technology on wheels. And I think that Musk can see around the corner. But I think that Jensen is thinking about a legacy of changing the entire paradigm about the way the world is. Jensen is creating single-handedly an industrial revolution. And Musk is creating single-handedly a way to be able to deliver things. And those are both brilliant things, without a doubt. But to create an industrial revolution yourself, to create the loom, to create the train, to create the steamboat, who does these things?
Do Lisa Su and Gelsinger have any part of that? Or is this completely a solo job?
No, Lisa's watching right now and saying, Jim, why don't you give me my due? My current chips are equal to the H100, if not superior. Pat's as nice as ever.
Let's focus on what he just said there. What are you thinking?
Yeah. So first off, these comparisons are difficult to do in current times. You almost have to look back at them with a historical context. So the way to really judge this would be, to look back, 10 years from now on it. But obviously, you're comparing Elon Musk to Jensen Huang. They're both obviously great, innovators. They're great business leaders. This is not a clear number one or number two, is what Jim Cramer is saying. I think it's totally ridiculous. And if you look at what Tesla is actually doing, what people don't realize is Tesla has a silicon design team. They have a silicon hardware and software team, and they've got 6 million AI inference computers running in vehicles today. They've got more inference compute running in the automotive world than Nvidia has running right now. So, and this is taking nothing away from Nvidia. Jensen Huang is a great leader, and Nvidia is a great company and will continue to be a great company. But I think these are two, somewhat different individuals in terms of their leadership, but and their results. But I think you're gonna have to this is gonna have to run its course over a decade or more. We're gonna have to look back on it. But in terms of like the great innovators, you look back at obviously Musk, you look back at Jobs, you keep going back. Jensen Huang is going to be in that conversation. He deserves to be in that conversation. But I think it's ridiculous to say that there's a clear one or a clear two. And I think if you asked each one of them, I think they would say it's ridiculous right now. They're really focused on transforming their industries. And for Jim Cramer to kind of just corner Elon into auto only, I mean, look at SpaceX, look at what he's doing in stationary energy, look at what he's doing obviously with AI, now with XAI and Grok, and obviously with X.com. I mean, if you look at the scope of companies under Elon and his fingerprint, and Neuralink, of course, too, failed to mention that, and Boring Company and so forth. If you look at the imprint he's going to put on society, he's going to change the way we transport ourselves, both terrestrial and extraterrestrial, if you think about it. And he's also driving the AI. He was one of the original founders, investors in OpenAI. So to say that there's some clear number one or two, I just keep going back to, I think it's ridiculous. I think we're very lucky to be alive during this period of time. I think we've got two great technology leaders. They're based in the United States. I think we're very lucky as well. But in terms of if you don't live in the United States, you're watching this video, they're exporting everything that they do abroad in terms of their products and services to consumers. But we're very lucky to be alive during this time period. And there's no clear one or number two. And I think people get in these little momentum swings when they look at stock prices and they look at market caps of companies. But this really honestly has to play out over decades for us to really.
Great points, Jeff. I appreciate you making that. People are reacting because of stock prices is one of the main drivers why they think Jensen Huang, not to take anything away from him nor Nvidia, what they've accomplished. But you made some great points here. Let's take a look. We're going to watch more videos of Jensen Huang himself. We're going to evaluate him ourselves. But let's take a look at this report by Boston Consulting Group just came out this morning. Boston Consulting Group's annual list of world's most innovative companies as voted on by C-level executives. This is for 2023, and you've got Apple number one, Tesla up 3 spots from prior year. So again, still interesting that Apple is number one. I'm a big Apple fan, but still trying to scratch my head at what they've done innovative in the last year. You got Amazon, Alphabet, Microsoft, and the only one who isn't in the $1 trillion club, of course, is Tesla. Everybody else is up there. If you look at this list, so this is the 50 most innovative companies of 2023, the ranking 1 to 10, you got Apple, Tesla, Amazon, and so forth. BYD is now number 9, and it looks like Tesla jumped 3 points up. Microsoft fell by 3. Again, just weird. This is the year that Microsoft and OpenAI partnered. Then you got 11 to 20. You can see that Nvidia is here in 13, number 13, 11, 12, 13, 14, number 14, and they just went up by 1. What's your thinking about this list?
Well, I mean, first off, these are people's opinions. I was a C-level exec as well. I would not have put BYD, although I have great respect for what they've done over SpaceX or Nvidia. But I mean, all these companies have kind of their own niche of what they've done and what their imprint they've done in society. I think looking at the momentum is important. Look at Microsoft moved down 3. Samsung moved down. Tesla moved up 3 positions. I mean, that's a big move. That really is what's happening here is C-level execs they're opening their eyes and saying, look, what Tesla did is very difficult. No one in what we talked about, we've talked about in other videos, Herbert, no one has figured out how to make an EV consistently profitably. And maybe BYD has started to figure that out, but they're nowhere near where Tesla is in terms of profitability per vehicle sold. And I think there's a lot of admiration and credit for Tesla figuring out the auto industry and what they're about to do in autonomy. So you've got this AI component where they figured out hardware at this massive scale, and then and to do it in the United States as well, and now they're figuring out AI at scale. So I can see a lot of admiration for Tesla, and I can see it moving up in the number 1. I can see Nvidia moving way up in the next rankings as well. So I think it's really important to kind of look at the momentum of movement of these companies. Again, this is just a survey of executives, but it's really, it's what people think, out in the industry. So kudos to Tesla.
Let's watch a little bit more about Jensen Huang on CNBC, and you can listen to him talk about, they just had their earnings call last week. We can compare how Jensen approached the earnings, kind of how he talks to the public, to the news, media, versus the way Elon sometimes does it. You can tell me what you're thinking. So let's listen to it.
The story of the regular session today after the earnings report was the story of overtime yesterday. After the analyst call, I spent some time on the phone with CEO Jensen Huang talking about whether growth can continue from here. I asked how AI apps like OpenAI's Sora, which generates video from text prompts, will drive demand.
The ability to go from words and scenarios to describe video that is generated, these models all require enormous enormous infrastructure to train, because you're training not from words, but you're training by watching video, literally. You're going to see a lot more modalities of these. You're going to see text with images, with sound, with video, all being trained at the same time. And so today, notice most of the videos are silent, but in the future, the words and the video will be registered perfectly, and not only will you generate video, you'll generate the associated and appropriate sounds that go along with it, and vice versa.
I also asked him about this idea out there that the AI marketplace is about to shift from training AI models to using them, what's referred to in the industry as inferencing. Some competitors have suggested that when that happens, Nvidia will lose some share. Jensen said, not necessarily.
The goal of inference is application reach. It's no different than the goal of writing an application for a mobile device is application reach. You prefer a phone with the largest install base. It is fundamentally the reason why Apple is so successful. In our case, inference, anybody who's developing an application to run inference is going to prefer NVIDIA first. And the reason for that is because the CUDA install base is so large. It is the only acceleration platform that has a giant install base. It is in every single cloud. It is growing incredibly fast. And it's available on-prem or in the cloud. It's available all the way out to the edge for robotic systems. And so this architecture being so pervasive, and because we have the discipline of protecting it and maintaining it for 30 years, this architecture is now literally everywhere. And if you are somebody who is developing an application for inference, targeting NVIDIA gives you the largest possible reach.
We can pause it there.
Yeah. What do you think, Jeff? I mean, the way he answers that is obviously very, very confident. You can answer whatever you like if you want to answer his comments about NVIDIA's, platform and their strategy. But I'm just looking at him as a leader. He seems strong. He seems to have got a good vision. It's pretty level-headed. Answers well.
Yeah. No, I mean, I listened to that earnings call. It was the CFO, takes the first half hour or more of it, and it's very scripted. I mean, it's literally front to back scripted, but it's very carefully scripted in terms of what they say, how supportive they are of what they're doing. They do discuss risk, but they do it in kind of a measured way, just like they discuss also the opportunity in a very measured way. And a couple of those sound bites from Jensen, although he knows this stuff very well, but a lot of those are actually there's a scripting framework around. He wants to make sure that point is out regarding CUDA. He wants to make that around inference. He wants to make sure that point is out, regarding the install base and so forth. So not only is the kind of the front part of that call scripted, but a lot of the framework of some of the other responses are. You can say, okay, well, this is great. What's really important is like, what is the company doing the other 89 days, leading up into the 90 day of the earnings call? Like, what's the real work that's happening? What are they doing to solve problems for consumers? What are they doing to innovate? And, Tesla is obviously focused on that. NVIDIA is obviously very focused on that. But I think it's important to also be able to tell that story on the earnings call and to do it in a very measured fashion. So obviously I think NVIDIA is doing a much better job of that here. But again, the most important thing is like, what are you doing the other 89 days? And they're both kicking ass and doing amazing things, but you've got to be able to carefully tell that story and put appropriate weightings on risk, or put appropriate weights on opportunity, and so forth. So we'll leave it at that. The comment around inferencing I thought was important. That's most of the people don't understand this. Most of the people in fintech media don't understand this. That inference chip. That's what Tesla went off and designed first. They kicked that off, I think, in 2016 and taped it out in 2019 with Pete Bannon and his team. That's what's inside of every Tesla today is the Tesla inference computer. They replaced an Nvidia inference computer that was in there prior when they were doing Mobileye and Vision prior to that. So the vision, the forethought to be able to go after that and do that, and then eventually now to scale this into Dojo, which is right now network infrastructure that's running, Tesla software, Tesla training software, but it's using NVIDIA hardware currently, and now they're starting to hopefully feather in some of the Tesla, the D1 chip and the D1.5 or D2 chip that's under development, but Tesla is doing this end-to-end AI inference and training compute structure. They worked and they partnered with Nvidia. I think we'll see some early videos of that. And Nvidia is a good partner to Tesla. But if you look at the two companies, I mean, outside of, in Google as an inference computer, and others are working on this as well for their own applications, because you don't need the full GPU sometimes for some of the work that you're doing inside of the vehicle. And in this case, a vehicle, and Tesla really wanted to make sure they got power consumption to be, the best, it's under 100 watts for the computer in the vehicle. So I just want to make an important point that Tesla has done their own inference computer, and that's what Nvidia ships a lot out to their customers and clients today to work on. Those other 80 auto manufacturers, they said that they're working with, I don't know if there's 80, but they said they're working with 80 different partners in the space. Tesla did that themselves. They designed their own silicon. They went and they fabbed it out to Samsung. Samsung is the production partner, just like TSMC is the production partner for Nvidia. Tesla did the same thing, designed their own silicon. They have their own software running in the vehicle. It's all Tesla. And I think it's very important. Tesla's not paying that margin back to Nvidia for every inference computer inside of the vehicle. And I think it's just really important to put that out there. And then with Dojo, Tesla's trying to replace the Nvidia portion of the on the training side. But they're going to work with Nvidia, I think, over a number of years, and AMD until they ramp up their own effort.
Yeah, so getting back to this idea of, Jensen versus Elon, and like you said earlier, that's crazy to even think about that, but people are talking about it. And if you think about Nvidia versus Tesla, Nvidia is trying to become Tesla, right? I mean, they started off with the chips, and they got the data warehouses. Now they're heading into providing platforms for autonomous vehicles. They're providing platforms for robotics. Now they're also doing platforms for genomics and biology. But he's trying his best to go beyond just hardware and into an actual platform supporting everything that's out there. And meanwhile, that's what Tesla's strategy has always been from the beginning. So it's interesting. So the other thing I want to just point out is that, people think that Jensen, like Elon better be friendly with Jensen. Well, Elon and Jensen are actually friends. They've been longtime friends. Here's a video. Let's take a quick look at this. This is a video from, what is it here? 2000 and...
My only question for Elon at the time...
Can't remember now. Was it?
Probably 15.
2015. And, now, they've been longtime friends.
We made it a point not to rehearse anything. And so I just want to as a reminder, you're my last thing.
Okay.
Okay. Could you not ruin the whole thing?
All right.
All right. So remember now, speaking of that, I think everybody would like to, before we get into all of the good stuff.
Okay.
And they want to go directly to the juicy stuff.
Okay.
Okay. And the juicy stuff is this. Look, you were quoted as saying that artificial intelligence is more dangerous than nuclear weapons. And
I said potentially.
and well, it goes on. It goes on. And
it does go on.
You say that it's like summoning the demon.
Could be.
How do you rationalize the conflict between artificial intelligence, of course, deep learning that obviously is going to be very important to self-driving cars? How do you think through that?
Well, I don't think we have to worry about autonomous cars, because that's sort of like a narrow form of AI. And it's not something that I think is very difficult, actually. I think to do autonomous driving to a degree that's much safer than a person is much easier than people think.
Yeah, right.
I think it's going to just become normal. Like it'll be like an elevator. Like they used to have elevator operators, and then we developed some simple circuitry to have elevators just automatically come to the floor that you're at, and you can just press the button. Nobody needs to operate the elevator. The car is just going to be like that.
And the elevators these days are even smart. I mean, it knows.
Okay. So we're not going to watch the whole thing, but you can see that they're joking around with each other. They've been friends. They were actually there when OpenAI was first formed. He asked Jensen to donate some of the hardware for them. And they're talking AI in 2015. This was a year when nobody was thinking AI was a possibility at all. But they both knew already this was a big deal. Any thoughts on their relationship?
Yeah, obviously they're both visionary. Sorry about that, a little ding in the background. So obviously they're both visionaries, and they saw this, 10 years ago in advance, probably even earlier. And they are friends in real life, and they have great respect for each other. And they're also competing. I think Tesla started at, the way to think about it is Tesla started at the product level and then worked backwards into the platform level. And now they're actually developing all of their vehicles and all their products from a platform perspective. Because if you look at the brains inside of a Tesla autonomous computer, that's a platform that's going into every single vehicle they make. It's going into Optimus. It's going into their energy solution, their stationary energy. It's all, they've made a platform that works for their across multiple businesses, but across their entire business. And Nvidia is starting at the platform level, and they're pretty much staying at the platform level, but they're working on multiple platforms now across many different domains, as you said earlier, Herbert. So I think Nvidia is going to stay focused at the platform level, but serve more verticals. And I think Tesla is going to continue to work on more verticals and then expand the platform that they've developed internally. They've developed the inference compute already, so they have that on the client side. And now what they need to do is they need to ramp up on the network infrastructure and training side. And when they have that ramped up for automobiles, then they could use that for other things as well in the company, whether it's on the energy side or other uses. So I think they took two different approaches, but obviously both visionaries, both get along, both mutual respect. And I want to tell you one thing, from a supply chain perspective, that's very important. And here's why. NVIDIA's solutions are on allocation. And that is a very important thing for Elon as the CEO of Tesla to have a great relationship with Jensen. Because when you're on allocation, that means there's more demand than supply. And you've got 100 different people basically asking for the H100 computer from NVIDIA. Well, how do they sort out who gets what and when? Well, first thing, there's a FIFO system of when did you put your order in and how much are you paying for it. So if they could get customer A to pay a bunch more and they can get their orders in early, well, they're going to be to the front of the queue. But relationship is also part of it as well. If Elon picks up the phone and say, look, I know I'm due to get my next shipment on April 30th, but if there's anything you could do to get that to me 2 weeks earlier, I'd really appreciate it. That relationship goes a long way, and those calls happen, those conversations absolutely happen. I've been a party to those CEO to CEO conversations in the past. And so Elon and Jensen having that relationship, I think is very important for Tesla.
Yeah. And they're both leading the charge, and the world is changing significantly, and they both are very careful. You can see the question that they ask each other is, is AI going to be a demon? Is it going to be a terrible thing for the world? And they both are listening and watching it. So that's important. Thank you so much, Jeff. Follow him at the Jeff Lutz on X.
Great.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Herbert.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.